Yo, what's going on, everybody? Today we have a little review of the first week of the season. I know that I did this one podcast episode one day randomly about 7 months ago, and I haven't posted again. But basically, I'm trying to make this a normal thing now. I want to do these weekly reviews. I talk about the game so much, it's stupid for me not to express how I'm feeling out loud about all this stuff. I'm really trying to push myself to do all this. I have topics today I want to talk about. Today we're basically just going to be going over certain things that happened during the week, stuff like that. And then also I'm going to tap into a little bit of fantasy stuff, a little bit of conversations, a little bit of just a kind of breakdown question. And I would love to have people come on too and just talk to me about what's going on. But for now, these are just going to be like weekly recaps that I'm doing. But it's going to be a podcast, so it's going to be long, stuff like that. But yeah, basically, I'm just going to be chatting, talking about exactly how I'm feeling about certain aspects. Got all kinds of game breakdowns, all kinds of topics I want to talk about. Pre-game for Thursday night. And yeah, so I'm just going to get right into it. As you can see from the title of this week's episode, I'm going to go down the game breakdowns, all those games, all kinds of stuff like that. But basically, I'm going to start off with the fact of we got to start off with my team, the New York Giants football. Of course, we made the playoffs last year, beat the Vikings in the playoffs. We had a good-looking team. And then the only thing we did this offseason is get better. We got Isaiah Simmons in the trade. We got Boogie Basham, stuff like that. And then on the other side, we got Paris Campbell, a bunch of solid pickups. Nothing crazy. We signed back Saquon, of course. That was big. We got all kinds of things. Our team's looking really nice. And, yeah, so then we come out against the rivals in week 1, the Dallas Cowboys, of course. And we put on one of the worst performances I've seen in a long time for a team that has, they have a decent amount of people looking at them like, hey, these guys could do something. I don't know if a lot of people are looking at us as contenders and stuff like that. I think we could be in that conversation. Football is one of those sports that really anything could happen. And we saw that last year with them. The Eagles stood in the way. Of course, teams like the Eagles, stuff like that, would be very hard to get past them to the Super Bowl. But, I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to say that we were looked at or being looked at as Super Bowl contenders and possibly. But they come out on Sunday Night Football and they have a really strong opening drive. Daniel Jones showing off with the legs. Saquon Barkley showing why he deserved to get paid. And then we have Andrew Thomas commit a stupid mistake. And then we get the field goal block to start it off for a block 6, whatever you want to call it. And then from there, it just goes downhill. We throw a pick 6 off a Saquon tip, which was I saw some people blaming Saquon for that. That was not Saquon's fault. Eventually, it didn't matter, so I didn't see a lot of that anyway because it was such a bad game. But Daniel Jones completely set him up in that bad direction. Daniel Jones, I'm a big Daniel Jones guy. I love him. I know a lot of Giants fans hate him. He's gotten better every season, and he's shown why he is a really, really solid quarterback. Last year, he didn't have anybody, and he made it work out, made us a really strong playoff team. And he's just proven, his accuracy's gotten better. He can do it all with his legs. He's great at that. But this was one of the worst games I've seen from him in a long time. Now, I'm not completely down on them because we're a solid team, and I think we just came out extremely flat in the first week. When I say extremely, I mean extremely. But I'm not completely down on them. It's very hard to feel any type of way when they played this poorly. I'm talking defense played awful. Well, I can't even say it. Defense didn't even play as bad as it looks, being a 40-0 game, because a lot of the turnovers literally led either to exact points or put them in a spot that was so nice that they just scored with ease. So, the defense, I can't even put that on the defense. The defense was not terrific. For sure, the secondary looked like they were completely lost. They didn't know what they were doing. We couldn't make a tackle when it came to the run game. So I can't say too much about it. because we didn't really see them. It's hard to be a defensive player and really give your all on the offense, going out there and doing absolutely nothing. So I can't say too much about the defense, but the offense looked atrocious. The offensive line, nothing's changed. Daniel Jones looks up, gets sacked every time. And if he doesn't, then he's got no receivers to have separation. That was one of my highlights in the notes that I put, is we have nobody that can get separation. It's pathetic. We got some really good speed guys. Wan'Dale Robinson, he didn't play, but he's got some speed. We got Paris Campbell now, and then we got Jalen Hyatt, who's supposed to be good. And they're all these fast guys who are supposed to be able to create separation, and none of them can. And we saw Isaiah Hodgins be one of our best receivers. He kind of fell out the rotation. We saw him later in the game, had a really nice play, and then fumbled as soon as he got hit, which was just insane to see that, because we actually had a decent play. And this is late in the game. I think it was 30-something by that point to nothing. But it didn't matter because we coughed at the ball anyway. It was a ridiculous game. Then just matching it, Graham Gano, one of the best kickers in the NFL, has been extremely consistent for us. Comes out, and I know it was on the holder, which I'm not even blaming Jamie. I'm just saying that it was something wrong with the hold, and it was one of the worst looking kicks I've seen from an NFL kicker, and it was so extremely off. We're talking in the beginning of the game. Just everything went wrong that could have went wrong. It was one of the worst played football games I've seen in my life. Daniel Jones, 102 yards, just pathetic game, two interceptions. Saquon, I mean, he played all right for what he did, but he couldn't do much. Darren Waller was our leading receiver. Of course, they had three guys. They were triple teaming him all night. Why wouldn't you? I mean, we have nobody else that can get open. Darius Slayton, I don't know what he's doing out there. Sterling Shepard's out there. He didn't make a single catch. It was really pathetic. We really had nothing to show. We made Dak Prescott look all right, even though he didn't even end up having a good game. 143 yards is what he threw for. He didn't do much. He didn't have to. Tony Pollard, of course, killed it. But the defense is really where it's at. Micah Parsons shows why. One of my other highlights was the Dallas defense's presence. They got Dexter Lawrence, who's an absolute stud, was in Defensive Player of the Year conversations not that far long ago. And then Micah Parsons is showing why he is one of the best, most talented players we have ahead in our league right now. And he just dominated all night. There's no way around it. Another thing I just want to get off, this is pretty much it for the whole rant about this game. There's not much to say. The Cowboys didn't have to show too much. They just killed us. The Giants look pathetic. That's pretty much it. But I do want to call out somebody specifically, and that's Evan Neal. We used I think it was the 7th pick last year. And, of course, you don't want to give up on anybody too easily, especially linemen, because linemen sometimes come in and it's a big transition. You know, when you're a quarterback, you take hits every day. Wide receiver, you block, stuff like that. But when we're talking about defensive linemen, offensive linemen, they are in there clashing every minute, every second of the game, every play. So it could be a hard transition. I don't want to give up on anybody too easily. Andrew Thomas wasn't great in his first year or anything like that either. But Evan Neal looks so bad in this starting offensive line. There were so many plays that you just saw him. This is the problem, right? If it's about skill and you're just like, you're trying to get used to it, it's a second-year guy, I get it. It comes down to the fact that he's not trying out there. He watches the guy. He gets to the side. He watches the guy completely go by and kill our quarterback, the one that we just paid all this money to. You're just killing him, kill Saquon, anybody like that. He was pathetic. It was awful. And being a huge guy like that, 6'7", 6'8", 300-something pounds, he's huge, top-rated guy, first overall pick, and he does that. It's sad to see, and it fits exactly with what we've been drafting lately. We've been drafting awfully over the past couple of years. We've had our guys. We had Odell. We had Saquon. We had these guys, Andrew Thomas, stuff like that. But we've also had the I can't even think of his name right now. DeAndre Baker. We've had our DeAndre Bakers of the world. It's just bad. It really is. Kadarius Toney's one of them as well, which we've seen. We'll talk a little bit about him as well. But yeah, it's just it really was a rough game to watch, and I was obviously excited for it all day because I'm a huge Giants fan, and it was a tough watch. But moving on. So last night, I think I'll be putting this video out tonight, so it should be good. But last night, we had Monday Night Football, Jets versus Bills. Extremely hyped up game for me because I've been a huge believer in this Jets team over this offseason. I've been thinking, and I know it's been a lot of people too, but a lot of people have had their things about Aaron Rodgers, a little old, stuff like that. This team is good. Their offensive line struggles, things like that. But I've been there. I've been thinking that this team is very well rounded. The offensive line isn't too bad. And it doesn't matter anymore. Well, we're going to talk about if it does, but Aaron Rodgers played a possession. He threw away one pass, and then he goes down with an injury. It looked pretty bad, but it didn't. We don't know. He got carted off, and then we get the notification today that he has fully torn his Achilles, and he's out for the year, which is tragic. It really is. Even if you're not a Jets guy, which I'm not, obviously, but I've been a big fan of this team. Even if you're not a huge fan, you just want to see good football at the end of the day as an NFL watcher, and Aaron Rodgers contributes to that hugely, and he's now out for the year, which is very unfortunate. All those guys over there love him. It sucks. It really sucks for them. Zach Wilson came in and played an all right game. He threw some good passes, stuff like that. He led them to the victory. But it's really on the other side that I want to talk about the most. Before we kind of tap into the Jets, I just want to say Josh Allen. I love Josh Allen. He has, been one of the best quarterbacks in the league over the past couple of years. I've always gotten him in fantasy because he's an absolute just beast on the field. He runs with it. He does all these good things that you love your quarterback to do, right? His problem has been turnovers, making dumb decisions, and in last night's game, we saw probably one of the worst games from that standpoint since his rookie season. He throws for 3 picks, all to the same guy, Whitehead, and he just looked really bad. I mean, he made a couple plays that were like, oh my God, this guy's great, like he always does. But we didn't see his running ability as much as we would like to, and he just made some extremely bad throws that were just like, wow, I'm not sure what he's doing. One of the interceptions that he threw was kind of just like, it was like a punt, basically. It was like, whatever. But then, of course, you had Breece Hall on the other side who hit an 83-yard run right up the gap, and that was unfortunate. So that's why you can't afford to take on those turnovers, stuff like that. But then we saw the game get won by the undrafted rookie Xavier Gibson, which is awesome. If you guys watch Hard Knocks, that's an awesome moment for everybody. He was looking like he was going to get cut, and then he made it. Now he's starting, and he won the game, which is huge. It's a great story. But yeah, so the Bills, I'm not too worried about them, but I think it is time to have a serious conversation if they are really truly the just over-the-top, real deal, hands down best team in that division. I think it's a conversation. Now, I think it would be more of a conversation if Aaron Rodgers was looking at playing. Now he's not. And, of course, one of my notes was, are the Jets real contenders? I don't think they are with Zach Wilson. That's the truth. I think their team is really good. I think they're going to have a good year. I think they're going to make the playoffs. But Aaron Rodgers is a huge piece of that. And I don't think they're a better team with Zach Wilson getting replaced or being the replacement to Aaron Rodgers with Buffalo in that division and Miami. But I think it's time to really think. The Bills have consistently over the years not done anything to really get better. They got Von Miller, which was a huge pickup, but he's out now, and they don't do much to get better ever. They struggled in the running back room, which it looks like they found somebody that's kind of working it. I mean, Cook had a really good game. James Cook had a really well game last night, but at the end of the day, they always struggle in that area. Defense, they lost a couple key guys. Edmonds was a huge loss for them. And they're a step away. When you're a step away, you make those few changes to make yourself that contender, and they're not doing that and they haven't. So I think we need to stop saying that they are guaranteed the lock of that division when you got teams like Miami that came out and they had an offensive battle. Their defense looked really not good, but they they really just, their offense was killing it. They had Tua, of course, had the most yards. Tyreek had a huge day. I just think it's time to kind of, leave it open because this Bills team really isn't making any progress when it comes to the roster. And then this game was not a good game for them. They scored 16 points the whole game in an overtime game. And Josh Allen played one of the worst games we've seen him play. So now I think the Jets are in a rough spot right now just for this year. I think they're, I mean, I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen in Aaron Rodgers' future. But Breece Hall had an amazing game last night. You got Garrett Wilson. Of course, he made the huge touchdown grab. That was awesome. The bobble catch. That was awesome. And then you had a lot of talent over there. But this year, I just don't think I believe in them too much with Zach Wilson, although he played a fine game. But he didn't do anything out the box that kind of made me, too excited about them. Yeah, but I think the Bills are the best team in that division right now, just because of how lackluster Miami's defense is. But I think it's time to have the conversation of, can we lock them in that position? I think when this Jets team is healthy, they're not. I think that this Jets team is overall better. Their defense is killer. Quinnen Williams in the middle is insanely good. C.J. Mosley at linebacker, he is a great reader. He's great. Then you got Sauce Gardner, who's amazing on the corner, and Reed looks like he's fine. He struggled a little bit last night, but he had to switch on Stephon Diggs a million times. I get it, but I think this team is way more talented, healthy, but without Aaron Rodgers, it's definitely a conversation. Now, speaking of Miami, that is going to be the game of the week. I'm going to try to do this every week, stuff like that. Just pick out a game that I really want to highlight. Of course, I'm going to give the game breakdown of every game, but just as far as the game of the week, I would say is the Miami Chargers game. That was extremely entertaining. Of course, the Jets-Bills game went into overtime, stuff like that. But I know a lot of people missed that game, one because of the ESPN thing, and also because of, Aaron Rodgers went out. I get it. It was a really slow defensive game. But I think the question is, I have been a big critical guy on Tua Tagovailoa. You know what I'm trying to say. Tua. I don't know why I can't say his last name right now. Tua Tagovailoa. But that's not the point. We just call him Tua. But basically, I've been a big, some would say hater on him. Is it time to say that he's the real deal? Is he the real deal? Of course, everybody's been having this conversation over the past couple of years. He's got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, one of the best receiving groups in the NFL. Is he the real deal? Is he a guy that's going to be able to take you to the Super Bowl? I still think a lot of the throws he was making were not great, and I still think that a couple of the bombs that he hit Tyreek on were extremely underthrown. Tyreek Hill had a huge game. I watched him on one possession, one of the ones that he had a huge catch, and I think it was for the touchdown, the first touchdown that he caught. He's lined up, and he has the most lazy stance in the world, and he takes a lazy step off, and then he just bolts, and he's gone. It's hard to, when you're set up as a franchise quarterback of a team with those receivers, it is hard to miss a guy that is that good at his job and he is that wide open. So I'm not trying to be a hater or anything. He's supposed to do that when he's in that position. And he did the things that separate the good quarterbacks from, this is my problem too. He struggles to do the things that separate the good quarterbacks from the quarterbacks that are amazing. The amazing quarterbacks in the league, the Patrick Mahomes, stuff like that, they got nothing open. They find a way to either run out the pocket, maybe run, and then hit somebody. He struggles to do those things. I think he shows glimpses of greatness, and I'm not trying to hate or anything, but I think that he's got a lot of problems that he definitely could. And I think he is getting way better at. I can't hate on him. He had a huge game, 466 yards. He had a massive game. And, again, it is against Chargers defense, which I think is pretty weak. Joey Bosa did really nothing the whole game, which was very surprising. But I think with the help of Tyreek Hill It's huge. And at the end of the day, you could say as much as you want about, oh, is this guy really great? Is this guy really great? And then I could say about how he has Tyreek Hill. But that's not really an excuse necessarily because he has Tyreek Hill. There's no way around it. So if he has Tyreek Hill, he's just got to play with it. So he should be great with Tyreek Hill, but it doesn't matter. That's who he's been given to play with. So you can't take it away from him. Oh, he's got Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, Tua made some really big throws. A lot of the ones on to Tyreek Hill deep were all great throws. I can't hate on him. I'm not really the biggest believer in it. I don't think that they can win it. First of all, they cannot win a championship with this team. That defense is not going to last like that. But I think on the other side of things, like I talked about, the Chargers defense looked pretty pathetic as well, which is why I'm not totally sold on Miami yet, just because their defense is really not good, and they barely won this game. Justin Herbert had a huge game for them, for the Chargers, and I wanted to say, even though with the loss, the Chargers have major upside. They got Joshua Kelly, who came out. Of course, he's not the lead back. Austin Eckler is always going to be the lead back. But Josh Kelly came out with just that aggression, and he came out just running the ball hard in the middle, and he ended up with 16 carries for 91 yards. That's a great day. A little over 5.5 yards. And he looks like, I'm going to be honest, he wasn't even on my radar for a guy that's like got any kind of room this year, because he's just been a guy that's just like, whatever, he was a draft pick, he was an experiment, maybe a good power back stuff for them. He didn't really pan out. This year he looks really good. This game that he had was good, and it wasn't just a game like, he had a good game. He really looks strong, and of course, like I said, it is against Miami's defense. They're a little weak. But he had some nice runs. As far as the receiving game goes, Mike Williams got hurt. He came back. He can't stay healthy. I don't know what to say about them. They're another team that's just a piece away. I can't see them being good, or not being good. That's a stretch. I can't see them being the team that is in contention, just because they're always that piece away. They can never hold on to a game. It's kind of crazy the way they can never hold on to a game. No matter who steps in for them, no matter what guys they get, they still can't hold the game. It blows my mind. But Justin Herbert tried really hard to keep his guys in this game, and I think he played an outstanding game. But yeah, I think both these teams are going to be really good. I think neither one of them are in my radar for competing for a championship, if I'm being honest. But I think that they're both talented playoff teams. I want to just keep going with, before we get to the breakdowns and all that stuff, I want to just do this little segment when we're talking about, do I believe in these quarterbacks as the franchise QB? So now, of course, every team wants a quarterback that they really believe in. Of course, we see it every year. Every year there's new quarterbacks getting taken. This year, last year, the year before. Every year there's always quarterbacks that come in set up to get the keys to the offense, keys to the team. And I'm basically just going to go over and see which ones I truthfully believe in. And I split them up into some groups. I split them up into the rookies, the proven paid guys, and the proven in quotes, because I'm trying to tell you if I really believe in them. And then upcoming is another one that I did. And then just the guys that we don't need to talk about, I'm just going to kind of throw them in. But yeah, so when I ask this question, do I believe in them as a franchise quarterback, I'm going to kind of take it in two ways. I'm going to take it as one of there being, if they have the talent to take their team to the Super Bowl, or if they just have the talent to really lead their team to be a solid team. I don't think that if they're ever going to be in contention. But yeah, so we're just going to go over some names. We're starting off with the rookies. I got Anthony Richardson. I think that this guy is the real deal. He proved it. He made a couple mistakes down the line. They lost that game, but he had a really, really nice game. He did it all with his legs. He's a big guy, and he's also got a good arm, and I think that's obviously just going to develop while he's in the league. So I really do believe. I don't know. I really can't tell because he's a rookie if he has the keys to win a championship or anything with the team, but he's 100% the franchise quarterback, and I would not give him up for anything. He's looking like, I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in the league. Then when it comes to Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, I don't believe in either one of them. I think that they are both smaller quarterbacks, and I think neither one of them have a great arm, great decision making. I think that they're both solid with their legs, but I don't see either. I think Bryce Young is the better one. I think CJ Stroud is kind of like a really bad dollar store version of Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray hasn't panned out like we want him to. Of course, he's shown greatness, but he's just, he's Kyler Murray. I don't know what else to say about him. He had a really poor season last year. But I think CJ Stroud, I think that's his kind of max potential is a Kyler Murray kind of, and I think that it's even less than that really. But Bryce Young, there's still a little potential. Me personally, I don't believe in him really as the franchise quarterback. I think he could be a fine quarterback. But as the number one overall pick, I really don't think he's the best quarterback in this draft, and I don't think he is really the franchise guy. When it comes to the proven paid guys, we're looking at the first name we're going to throw out, Daniel Jones. Of course, I've talked about him enough. I think he is the franchise guy still, even with that bad performance. I think, like I said, he always gets better year after year. I've seen him get better. Do I think that he can lead us to a championship? I think it's 100% possible. We've seen it last year that he really made this group good, and it was guys that have never barely even played at the real NFL level. We had rookies, and we had Isaiah Hodgins, who's been on practice squad after practice squad. I think he really is talented. I know everybody's got a kind of a sour taste in their, or a sour taste in their mouth after this Sunday night football game, but I think he really is. He's got a lot of talent, and he can lead us to big things. Now, I put this guy's name on the list just because, again, he had a really poor game week one. We got Joe Burrow. I think that this one is a given, and I think that he kind of can also be in the group of the guys we don't need to talk about. This guy has led his team to the Super Bowl. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, hands down. He's 100% the franchise quarterback. I don't know, but I don't know who needs to hear that, but I have heard people say about how he, after this game, he's just not great, and he kind of just robbed them because he just got a huge contract. That's not the case. He's gonna make his money. He's gonna be worth his money. He really is that guy. He's a generational talent. He is amazing. We've seen it year in and year out that he is so talented. Yeah, he had a horrible first game. He had under 100 yards passing. I don't think we'll ever see that again in his whole career, to be honest. I'm a big Joe Burrow guy, and I think that you're crazy if you're not, because he really is. He's really that talented. Hands down, franchise guy. Now, this one's an interesting one because this is an MVP. This is a guy that everybody looks at as an amazing quarterback who can do amazing things. He's a former MVP. We got Lamar Jackson. I think that this is one that's very fascinating. I think this is one that's extremely interesting to me because is he really the franchise guy over there? Can he lead them to a championship? Is he the franchise guy? Obviously, he's the franchise guy. But when it comes to is he the correct franchise guy to get your team a championship, I don't think it's the case. And I'm going to take it back a step even further because I don't know if he's necessarily the guy that you want to lead your franchise. This guy can never stay healthy, and this game proved why he's very one-dimensional, why he is extremely bad at decision-making still at this far. He's gotten better throughout the years, but he's still not there. Of course, he's never had great receiver help. I want to put that out there. But we've seen him this week. He was a turnover machine. He was fumbling the ball. I think he threw a pick or two. He just didn't look good out there. I think he fumbled a couple times. I think they got a couple back. That's why he only might have a fumble or two. But he just had a poor game. He really did. And I'm not a big believer in him anymore. I was, of course, the first season he was in the league, his rookie year. He looked like he could be promising. And then he comes out his second year. He has a huge year, his MVP season, all that. But then, since then, it's been pretty downhill, I would say. He's gotten injured every year. They kind of had the holdout. They didn't really want to pay him. They paid him anyway, and I think that was a huge mistake. I would not want him as my franchise quarterback, And of course, he's got all the talent, he's got all the skill in the world. Can he put it into a winning football team? I'm not sure about that. I can't positively say yes to that. And I think I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that, because I really just don't. I'm not a big believer in him and paying him all that money. I didn't think it was a good idea in the first place. But the next one is Dak Prescott. I think this one's kind of a joke because I don't think he is, and I think a lot of people are getting to know that now. I think a lot, but it's weird with Dak because people either say Dak Prescott's not even a top 20 quarterback in the league, or they say he's top 10 still. And I think that I lean more towards he's a top 20 guy, because he really is just a horrible decision maker. He killed the Giants, so I can't even talk much. I'm just going to say that I'm just a hater because he killed the Giants. But he didn't even do much in this game, and he didn't play a bad game at all, but the Giants made it so easy, and we have one of the worst secondaries in the league. So he really has a lot to prove this year. I'm not over with Dak Prescott. I think he's not a very good quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but I'm not saying 100% positively. I think this is a huge year for him. If he can come out and really prove that he's a good quarterback again, put him in the playoffs, and really show this is a solid team. He's got weapons around him. He's got CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks came in. Tony Pollard, of course, is a good receiving back. I think he's got the weapons around him this year, and he has had the weapons around him. Great defense, of course. I think he needs to just put it together this year and have a great season. And then if he can do that, then maybe he'd be looked at as a franchise quarterback. I'm not sure. We could see. But then we have... Hold on one second. Then we have Deshaun Watson as the other guy. Of course, he got a big bag after sitting out for a couple years. And he has looked extremely shaky, I guess you could say, since he's come back from that. It's been a rough experiment with Deshaun Watson. Although I'm still a believer in him, I think he's gonna have a good year this year. He did some things this week, like the one interception that he had. I just don't know who he was throwing the ball to, and I don't think he does either. But he also made a couple of decent throws. I don't know what happened to him. He just doesn't look like the same quarterback we saw in Houston. I don't think he's a franchise guy, especially at this point. He's just getting older with time, and he just doesn't look like the same guy. He's got Amari Cooper now to throw to. Njoku's a good tight end, and he's got Nick Chubb. He can't really put it together at all. This is again just like the Dak Prescott thing. Another thing that's he has to have a big year this year. He has to have a big year to kind of get people on his wave again. I'm still on the Deshaun Watson wave just because I like him a lot as a player, but he really just doesn't look like the same guy we knew and we loved from Houston. I'm hoping that this year is just the year he can snap back into it, but there's not much to say. I don't think he is the franchise guy at this point. Then we got Trevor Lawrence. I think if you're saying that this guy is not the franchise quarterback at this point, you are crazy. You are insane. Former number 1 overall pick. This guy is great. He keeps getting better, and he didn't do anything to show that he can't lead this franchise to anything. This team is young. It's getting better around him as it goes, and he is turning into a guy that has like Justin Herbert level of talent. He just makes the right decisions, and he's a young guy who is learning with a new group of receivers. Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk just got there last year, Zay Jones as well. But Evan Ingram as well got there mid-year, stuff like that. He's got a young group of guys around him that are trying to learn just as much as him, and he's really turning this team into a good team. Of course, they made the playoffs last year. I think he is a generational talent as well, and I think he could lead them to a Super Bowl, and he is 100% the franchise quarterback. And if you disagree, you tripping. But basically, that's it for the proven guys. Then we got the upcoming guys. I kind of put these guys in a core in their own section because it's like I don't really know what to expect from this guy. He has the keys, kind of the franchise, but yeah, I'm not really sure what to say about him. I got Justin Fields. I think he is he kind of started off with a rough start to the year. I think he didn't play a bad game, but he didn't play a great game. He made a couple bad decisions. I think he's got all the talent in the world. He got out of some huge sacks that were like, wow, like this guy is really talented. He made a couple bad decisions, and I think that's just gonna come with it and his learning right now. He's only in he's only in his third or fourth year right now, so you gotta kind of cut him some slack with that. I don't think he hit guys like DJ Moore enough. He didn't really incorporate them, but it's just going to keep coming as it goes. And last year, at the end of the year, he put together a hell of a season, and I think this year is just going to be an even better one. I think he's a guy that's just going to keep growing. Now, on the other hand, in the same conference, we got a guy like Jordan Love. I really don't know what to say about this right now because until this point, he had a really strong game one, but until this point, he's looked pretty bad. I think, again, he's a guy that's just going to get better, too. Especially playing with these young group of receivers that he's got, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, all these guys, Christian Watson. I think this is a really nice young group that he's got around him, and I think he's just going to progress. I think it's a little too soon to say that he's a guaranteed franchise guy, but I think he played a hell of a first week, and I think if I had to say an answer, I would say I'm fine with him being their franchise quarterback for right now. Sam Howell, he played an okay game. I think he showed his speed a little bit outside the pocket a couple of times. I think he made a couple of decent throws, but he's not the franchise guy. He's really not. I just don't think he is. There's not much to say. I think he was kind of a guy by committee. He kind of started this year, and I just don't think he has the tools to be a franchise quarterback at all. Now we got Brock Purdy on the other hand. I think he is the franchise guy. Do I think he's the best quarterback in the world? No. But I think he's got some good IQ. I think he makes some bad decisions sometimes. I don't think he has the greatest pocket awareness, but he is a good quarterback. He can get the job done. He's got talent around him, and he uses it. Some quarterbacks can't put it together. I think he can. And this team is so good that he puts them in the conversation to be in contention, and I think that's really all they want from him. And I think he's just going to get better as well. So shout out to the undrafted guy. I think Brock Purdy is a franchise quarterback. Now I put these two guys in the same exact thing just because I feel the same way about both of them. Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett, I feel that they are on the exact same level, and I think that they're at the exact same level right now. They're going to be at the exact same level their whole career. I think that they're guys that have been given the franchise of a team that's they've had success in recent history, and they're kind of on the down right now. I think that neither one of them are going to be a franchise quarterback. I think that they're going to both have a couple more years in the league, and then they're going to be thrown to a backup. That's just the truth. I don't think either one of them have great amount of talent, and I think that neither one of them should be looked at as your franchise's QB, and that's just the truth. Now, I also think, I'm going to say this as well, I think that they're going to be one of the guys, they're both going to be one of the guys that are kind of looked at as like he didn't have the best circumstances around him. He could have been great if he was put in a good opportunity, but he never did, so he never is going to be great. I think that that's kind of where they're at. I'm not saying that anything about their talent or anything like that, but I think that that's just kind of where they're at. I think that they're just never going to be the franchise guy that you want. I don't think that they're ever going to be put in contention or be a guy that you really want to lead your franchise. I think they're both going to get replaced within the next 5 years. But I think just to wrap it up, kind of the guys that we don't need to talk about. I know Josh Allen had a horrible week, but he's really got all the talent in the world. I think he's a guy that's hands down a franchise guy. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I think I'm trying to think of who else exactly. Let me just look exactly at the quarterbacks right now because I'm trying to think of who else exactly is a guaranteed, no need to talk about quarterback, franchise quarterback. Let me see. Let me just check it out right now. So, yeah, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. We kind of already talked about him. He was in that field. Justin Herbert as well. I don't think we really need to talk about him. He's got all the talent in the world. Even though I'm not a huge guy on him, I think he can be acceptable. That's pretty much it for the guys that we just absolutely don't need to talk about. Of course, that's not every quarterback in the NFL. But the other guys, I don't think they've really been given the keys to be put in a franchise quarterback situation. And a lot of them don't really need to be a franchise quarterback. They could just be a guy on a good team that's a solid enough quarterback to get them to a championship. I think that's the guy. That's the way I feel about Kirk Cousins, guys like Jared Goff, stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's a fun little segment, and I think I'll bring in a segment similar to that next week. We're gonna take a break from the real game stuff for a minute, and we're just gonna go to the side of fantasy football. Kind of in this segment, I just want to give a little wrap of what I learned this week from fantasy football week 1, and then kind of maybe go for, some. And I'm kind of gonna give some advice, just like in deep leagues, guys that you could pick up off the waiver wire and guys that I'm not buying that had a big week. So just a little wrap up of what I kind of learned. I learned that there's a lot of teams like the Giants and the Chiefs, maybe even the Packers as well, even though Romeo Doubs had a good game, that you just shouldn't trust any receivers, especially on a consistent basis. If you need a plug-in guy for a guy that's on a bye, I think that's acceptable, but you shouldn't have guys from teams like that in your lineup. We saw this from the Chiefs. Kadarius Toney had an awful game. Sky Moore had a bad game. You got guys like Rice who had a solid game, but are you really trusting him? I don't know. You got guys like Watson as well. I just don't think that there's anybody you could trust in that team. Same way with the Giants. You saw the Giants receiver do absolutely nothing. Hodgins, nothing. Hyatt, nothing. I think there's potential there, but there's nothing yet. Wan'Dale Robinson, who knows what's going on with him? He hasn't shown much at all. There's nobody on these teams that can really show you, hey, I'm a consistent guy, at least right now. I mean, some of these guys are really young, so they could be good eventually. But I don't think you can really put all your trust into any of these teams right now. It's a rookie season for a lot of these receivers on these teams, and you just can't be put in a situation to have to play them. I guess if you want to plug in, you could play one of the younger guys later on in the year, but I'm really not trusting any of them. If I learned another thing about quarterbacks this week, if you don't have a top quarterback guy, you're not a consistent safe. Even with the star quarterbacks, sometimes I learned this week from Jalen Hurts, had a bad week. Joe Burrow had a bad week. But if you really these quarterbacks this week kind of showed that there's really not, like, I really looked at this pool and I said, man, there's a lot of guys that can get it done. I learned that there's not a lot of guys that can get it done. They had, I'm trying to see exactly. So Tua had a big game. Mac Jones was the second leading fantasy manager in a PPR league. Jordan Love. And then past that, there was 6 guys this week that had over 20 as a quarterback. That's very rare that you see that. And they were Deshaun Watson, Anthony Richardson, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Mac Jones, and Tua Tagovailoa. So basically, there's only I think you could say 2 of those guys are really guys that you're like, I have a lock for quarterback, and that's Tua and Justin Herbert. Anthony Richardson, you might be able to say, but of course he's a rookie. He's going to have his ups and downs this year. Deshaun Watson's been all over the place. Jordan Love, he's a complete project. Mac Jones has been looked at as a guy that's on his way out. So, but past that, you got guys that are under 20 this week. It was a horrible quarterback week, and I'm looking at this pool saying, I don't think it's as deep as we thought. So, I mean, Trevor Lawrence had a solid game. Patrick Mahomes had an okay game. But then past that, you had 19.5 for Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence 17.7. And after that, you got no guys that are over 17. You got 16 points for Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield. If you don't have a top quarterback, then you might be in a sticky spot, and I think that you need a backup, and it really depends on the week value for them. That's kind of just a thing that I learned that I was very like, that's interesting. But then on the other side of things, we all looked at the tight end market this year and said, wow, there's a lot of skill in a lot of positions this year, but the tight ends is looking shaky. We got the top guys, and then after that is like, oof. You usually have the guys that are just like plug-in guys. You don't have many of those this year. You just got like guys that are, kind of experiments. You got Sam Laporta. You got the rookie from Buffalo. I can't think of his name right now, but You got guys that are like, oh, I don't know if I want to take him. Then you see guys like Gerald Everett and Pat Freiermuth, Tyler Conklin, who are supposed to be the guys that's just like, he's not a great tight end, but he'll give me a consistent 8 to 12 points a week. Gerald Everett got his count taken completely down. Tyler Conklin had a god-awful week. Pat Freiermuth had an okay week. He didn't really do too much. But is the tight end market deeper than we think? We saw some guys come out of nowhere this week and really play a solid game. I think Jake Ferguson is a guy that a lot of people didn't look at much this year, and he is a guy that got a ton of targets. He didn't have a big game, but he got a ton of targets. Hunter Henry has kind of been down on, but he had a big game. Hayden Hurst came out and really played good. Donald Parham took a bunch of snaps away from Gerald Everett. And then you got guys like Sam Laporta who came out and played good. Harrison Bryant, Logan Thomas played all right. Zach Ertz has been kind of a free agent in a lot of leagues I've seen. And then Luke Musgrave as well, the rookie from Green Bay. I think that I kind of undervalued the tight end pool this year. I think that there are some really solid tight ends that you really wouldn't have expected. Now, again, there's only 4 tight ends this week that put over 10 up. Darren Waller is one of them that's been projected to be like one of the best guys. Of course, he had a really bad week with that terrible Giants performance. Travis Kelce was out. Mark Andrews was out. Kittle had a rough game. So I don't know if it's as deep, but I think that those guys are all going to come to play within the next weeks. But if you got guys like Hunter Henry, Hayden Hurst come into play, then it's a lot deeper than I thought. It's still shaky. I just think that that's something that I can kind of say I could have been wrong about. That's just what I learned from week 1. But now getting into the guys, we're talking deep leagues. We're talking 12 to 14 teams. Some guys that you could definitely pick up. I think that I would make a claim for on the waiver wire is one we just talked about. Hayden Hurst came into Carolina, had a little bit of a revenge game going. He had a touchdown. He had that one drive that he was looked at a ton. Bryce Young, rookie quarterback, he's going to be making a lot of dump downs to him. I would definitely take him. They don't have too much of a competition down there for tight end. I would definitely look at picking up Hayden Hurst. I think that he can match that kind of consistent role as a tight end in the upcoming weeks. He's definitely on my mind for looking that up. Next guy we got is from the Rams. Of course, everybody's talking about him, Puka Nacua. The receiver for them, you saw Cooper Kupp go down. He's on IR at least till week 10. And then this guy, rookie, came in, and he really had a big game this week. He had, I believe, 21 points, something like that. He had a big week, and he had 21.9 points this week in a PPR league. I think that's a huge week. And the way he was getting thrown the ball by Matthew Stafford, he looked like a guy that he really likes to throw to. It wasn't just like a 2-touchdown little week, 4 reception type of game where he had a bunch of yards. No, he had 11 targets, I believe. A huge week. He was not getting the ball, not throwing to him anymore. 15 targets, 10 catches, 119 yards, no touchdowns. So this is just all raw yardage that he was getting, and I really like his game, and I think that's just going to continue. Another guy in the receiver market that I was looking at that I really liked is Kendrick Bourne. He had one of the biggest games for receivers this year, and he looked like he was the number one guy. Of course, Devontae Parker was out, but Kendrick Bourne, he had a really, really good season 2 years ago. Last year was a really down year, but I think that people kind of forgot about how good he really is. Just because he had a down year doesn't mean that he's a bad receiver, and I think that week 1 just proved why he really is still a good receiver. So I would make a pickup. I'm not saying that I would put him into the starting lineup right away or anything like that. I would kind of give it a chance, especially with Devontae coming back. But Devontae Parker can often be a non-factor. He has horrible separation. He's a good blocker. He's a bigger receiver that can get open once in a while. But I don't think he's taking too many targets away from him. So I would definitely look at Kendrick Bourne as somebody who I would pick up. I think I'm definitely going to be making a claim for him. Then going back to the running back position, I got Kyron Williams. He's not a free agent for a lot of leagues. The running back is another thing that's a little shaky right now. A lot of teams are struggling. There's not many free agent running backs I know in my league. But Kyron Williams, he had a really strong week. Cam Akers and him really split, and he really looked like the better running back this week. I'm just saying for this week, but I think in a league where there's not too many tight end or not too many free agent running backs, I would go with a guy like Kyron Williams if he's available just to pick up, because he can easily take on the running back number 1 this year if Cam Akers gets hurt, which he's been known to do, or if he kind of takes a step back. Another guy that I'm kind of believing in, like I said, tight end pool's a little shaky. I think it's better than we thought, but it is indeed still shaky. Donald Parham is the real deal. If he's not going to be the real deal within the next couple weeks, he will later on in the season. This guy is 6'8", and he's fast, and he's just a huge guy. And he had a solid week this week. Split snaps with Gerald Everett. I think Gerald Everett's kind of on the way out. You can't deny this guy's athleticism and physique. I mean, he's got it. He's being set up to be great, and you just have to acknowledge it. And the Chargers did acknowledge it this week. They're going to keep acknowledging it, and I think that he's going to be a starter by probably week 5, if not sooner. I think that he's not a great pick for right now, but a guy that you want to pick up just so you can have him before he turns into a beast, because this guy's going to be good. Going back to just a good little pickup. This is more. This is a shaky one, but Kenneth Gainwell, if he's available, I think he proved that he is 100% going to be their starting running back. I'm not sure exactly why DeAndre Swift is not, but you've seen him really struggle this week. He barely got any reps. Kenneth Gainwell took a lot of them over, had a solid week. I think that in a high-scoring Philadelphia offense, if he's available, 100% snag him if you can. He's not for many leagues, but definitely take him if he's available. Rashid Shaheed is another guy that I'm liking for them. There's not too much going on over there in New Orleans, but I think Derek Carr is good about getting the ball to a bunch of different people. And you saw Rashid Shaheed get a bunch of open looks, and of course they lost like Deontay Harris this year, couple receivers. So I would think about picking him up. Again, he's not a starting guy, but he's a guy that you can plug in on bye weeks, stuff like that. I would just get him for the bench. And then a guy that's a sleeper that is a total vet that's kind of gone under the radar is Robert Woods. I'd pick him up. He is a solid receiver still. He's always been a good receiver, and now he's on the Texans. You got a bunch of rookies in there. He's going to be the veteran leader, and I think that we saw him get a bunch of receptions. He's kind of a slot guy that runs a bunch of crossing routes, a bunch of little routes that a guy like C.J. Stroud as a rookie with not a lot of throw power can definitely, dump it down to him. I think he'll get a solid, 8 to 14 points a game. If you want a consistent guy like that, I would definitely pick him up. He's a good bench guy to have. I think that he is definitely worth the pickup. Now this is just a little section here. I'm not saying necessarily don't pick them up, but I'm just saying don't throw away a guy for this guy just because he had a big week. This is the big week not buying it section. I got number 1, Justice Hill. He's looked at as one of the top waiver ads this week. He's gonna be. I just don't believe it. I know that the Baltimore starting running back J.K. Dobbins went out, and he's going to be out for a long time, if not the season. I think it might have been the season. Yeah, it's the season. I think he tore his ACL. But Gus Edwards is still there. I know he's not a great back, but if they really want to run that ball, they'll run it with Lamar Jackson. I just don't see him having a really big impact on the air. He can maybe have 5 every game for the next week. I don't see him being much better at all. He didn't really have a great game. He just had 2 touchdown runs, pretty easy touchdown runs. I just don't see him being a big factor. I know a bunch of people are high on him right now. I wouldn't buy it. Another guy that had a solid game is Roscoe Johnson. I think that's how you say it for the Bears. Rookie running back. It's just shaky. Khalil Herbert. He had a bunch of carries, but he didn't really do much with the carries. And I don't see them really giving him the ball as much as they did. I think Khalil Herbert's definitely their guy. Justin Fields runs enough. They are going to have a more impactful passing offense throughout the upcoming weeks. I would say he's not a guy that I would pick up. I wouldn't believe the hype too much. Hunter Henry had a huge week. I'm not saying not to pick him up, but as if you really want that impact. They have Mike Gesicki too as well, so I wouldn't necessarily throw all my marbles into that Hunter Henry pick. He had one of the top scoring games for a tight end, if not the top. I think he had the top one. I'm just not believing it. We've seen Hunter Henry go up and down throughout the whole, last couple of years. I don't think that's going to change at all. Next up are two receivers. We got River Craycraft and Allen Robinson III. Allen Robinson III, of course, coming in, new veteran, stuff like that. He hasn't been good for a while now. Off Pittsburgh, I think that they have George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson got hurt, I believe, but either way, they have some options. Kenny Pickett, like I said, is not a great quarterback. I think that he's just going to slowly just evaporate a little bit in that offense. I wouldn't believe. I know he didn't have a huge game, but I think he had 11 something. I wouldn't, go out and get him. I think he's pretty washed up. And then the last guy, like I said, was River Craycraft. He was supposed to get 0.2 points. He ended up with 13. I wouldn't believe that. I think the Miami offense is too unpredictable. And I know that they don't have too much wide receiver depth. And he threw to him a couple times, but he really just had that big touchdown and then a couple big receptions in the long time. But I wouldn't really invest too much into him. He had projected 0.2 for a reason. He's not going to be too impactful for this team. I wouldn't really include him in my waiver wire pickups. Just a little game breakdown real quick. I'm just going to kind of go over the games, and I'm just going to kind of say anything that I really need to say. Lions, Chiefs, I think we've heard enough about that. No Travis Kelce, but this Chiefs wide receiver core looks pretty brutal. So that's just going to be a question mark for them if they could really do it. I think their defense looks a lot better than in prior years, but it's really just going to be if Patrick Mahomes can really carry this load, because it looked bad. Patrick Mahomes made a couple really good throws, dropped by everybody on the receiving core. The Lions look like a good team. They really do, and I think that they'll be a solid playoff team this year. But as far as that game goes, there's not much to talk about. Bengals, Browns. Browns killed the Bengals. I think the Bengals just came out extremely flat. Like I said, Joe Burrow will never play like that again. He'll be great. I don't think there's too much to say about that. I think they just had a really bad beginning. Texans, Ravens, I'm surprised. It was a 25-9 game, really weird scoring game. But it was a lot closer than it looked. The Ravens looked really rough. The receiver room looked just as bad as before they got Odell. Odell had really no impact. Rashad Bateman was probably their best receiver, and that was bad. Isaiah Likely did nothing at the tight end position. J.K. Dobbins went out. But the Texans are really just that bad of a team. The Ravens should have blown them out, and they kind of did in a way, but it really was a lot closer than the score says. I think that they're in trouble. Buccaneers, Vikings, there's no reason why the Vikings should have lost this game or even not have blown them out. I think the Buccaneers could be a little better than we think. I think they could be in contention for winning that division just because it's so bad. They have enough talent. If Baker can just play average, then they'll probably be in the playoffs. But the Vikings, there's no excuse for that. I think they also kind of came out flat. Their defense looks pretty rough. But the offense, it was a little disappointing. I think they do miss the guy like Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison played fine. But, when you got a guy like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, there's no reason why you should be in a game with Buccaneers. Panthers, Falcons, there's not much going on over there. I'm not really going to talk about that too much. Bijan looked good. Tyler Algier looked really good. Desmond Ridder played okay. The Falcons' defense, I think, is a lot better than people are giving them credit to. Panthers, they're just going to have a bad year. That's really all I got to say. The Commanders took the game from the Cardinals. Again, not too much to say. Neither one of these teams are going to be good. The Commanders have a nasty defense, but their offense is extremely lackluster unless Sam Howell can be amazing. The Cardinals, who knows what's going on with them? They have a talent in like a couple positions, and their team's god awful in some. So, not much to say about that. Jaguars, Colts. Jaguars ended up taking it by 10. I think it was a really close game for a decent amount of time. I think Trevor Lawrence played a good game, and so did Anthony Richardson. It's two teams that are on the up and up for the future. I don't expect too much for either one of them this year. I think the Jaguars are going to be a solid playoff team, but they're not going to do anything in the playoffs, anything like that. Really, just a solid game for both teams. I wouldn't be worried either way. I wouldn't be too overly happy about either way. 49ers Steelers, just an absolute dominant performance by the 49ers. I think the Steelers are in big trouble. I think they really need to start thinking about Kenny Pickett and if he's really the guy, because he's not. And then the 49ers just showed why they're really that good of a team. You got Debo not really having an amazing game, but then you have a guy like Brandon Ayuk coming in, scoring 2 touchdowns, having an amazing game. So I think the 49ers are just a powerhouse of a team, and they're just going to get better, and they showed that. Saints-Titans was a good game. Both teams are extremely lackluster. Titans defense is pretty bad. Saints defense is not great, and neither offense is good. So Ryan Tannehill played one of the worst games I've seen a starting quarterback have in a long time. He just missed every throw he could have. He had a Okonkwo wide open on an amazing play, and he just completely overthrew it. I think that you need to just get Will Levis in as soon as possible. I don't know if he's the answer, but Ryan Tannehill is just not good, so you got to get him out. But again, not much going on for either one of those teams. Raiders-Broncos. It was kind of a game that I really can't take too much away in either standpoint. I think the Broncos are going to be better than what they showed, but again, they might just not be great. I don't think they're too talented in any position. So, I mean, their defense is solid, but that's really it. The Raiders squeaked this one out. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have a fine season for them, but the Raiders are just not good. Their defense is pathetic, and there's no reason why the Broncos shouldn't have thrown all over them, but the Broncos are pretty pathetic on offense as well. Again, neither one of these teams are really going to do much, I don't believe. But the Raiders, Max Crosby is a huge highlight. He is amazing. That's really all I could say. Eagles-Patriots was a really fun game to watch. Eagles came out really flat. They really just didn't look too good at all. I know they won and they had the lead for a while, but they almost choked it completely against the Patriots, who they played a solid game, but again, Mac Jones is really not the answer, stuff like that. They really don't have a good team. They just came out, and if it wasn't for their defense, they would have lost this game. I think Jalen Hurts had a rough game, but again, it's the first week. You can't say too much about it. If it keeps going, then I'd be a little worried, but they really didn't impress me with this win, and I think the Patriots did kind of impress me a little bit. I think they hung with the former Super Bowl team, and they kind of hung with them, and they almost won this game. So I would say it's a pretty bad game for the Eagles, but I wouldn't be too worried. And the Patriots, I would be pretty happy. Rams-Seahawks, Matt Stafford really showed that he is still a great quarterback. I would not give up on the Rams. Cooper Kupp will come back at some point. It's just their defense has a lot of holes in it, I would say. But the Seahawks just showed that they're just a very subpar team, and they're just nothing but that. We already talked about the Dolphins and the Chargers. Packers and Bears, Jordan Love put on a really good game. Aaron Jones just put on an absolute show. He had a great game. Again, I think they're in a position. They have a lot of talent, but it's really on the up and up for the future. I don't think it's anything for right now. I'm not believing the hype right now, but I think that they had a really good start, and I think Jordan Love, if you're a Packers fan, you can't be anything but excited because Jordan Love really played a good game, and a lot of people are worried about that. But yeah, the Bears, they kind of had a poor game. Justin Fields made a lot of bad decisions. DJ Moore didn't really get included the way you'd like him to. Cole Kmet had a rough game. There was a bunch of Darnell Mooney had an okay game, but the defense, kind of lackluster. I think I wouldn't be too worried as a Bears fan, but I don't think I would be too happy either because they kind of showed major flaws in this game, kind of saying, we're not really as good as people think we are. I think we're going to be good soon. Just not right now. So I wouldn't be too worried as either team, but I'd be pretty happy leaving this as a Packers fan and a little bit worried, but not too worried. I think you got a really good guy in Justin Fields. So this was a fun NFL week. I'm not saying too much right now because it's week 1. I can't really judge exactly how a team's going to be just off this week. I don't want to. I think that's kind of unfair to the team. But there's definitely some warnings kind of for certain teams, and then there's some teams that are like, oh, okay, this might be good for us. Like the Jordan Love thing, I think is huge because until this point, he really hasn't shown anything in the actual NFL that's like, this guy's going to be good. This game was a game that showed this guy can really be good. So, not too much, but I think that I'm just going to, end this with the Thursday night pregame. We got the Vikings at the Eagles. Like I said, the Vikings or the Eagles, they both really came out very underwhelming and flat on offense, and neither one of them have an amazing defense. I think the Eagles' defense is a lot better, and I think that's really what's going to lead them to win this game. Vikings are going to start out 0-2, which is going to be a tough one for them, but I think it's going to be a really good game. Both offenses have the power to be really good. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on one side, and then Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson on the other side. I think you can't ask for too much better than that. But you got to watch. Justin Jefferson's going to be on Darius Slay. I think Darius Slay is just getting younger at this point. He just still is amazing. I think he's not going to put him on clamps, but he's going to, do the best he can with him. And I think it's just going to be a really good game. Now the other thing is the Vikings defense good enough to hold Jalen Hurts and the Super Bowl contending team. That was one of my notes that I said. And I just don't think it's the case. They could barely they couldn't hold Baker Mayfield. So what makes you think they're going to hold A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts? I just don't think it's going to happen. Should we really be worried about the Vikings? I don't think so, but it is going to be a tough one for them to start 0-2, I believe. I really do think the Eagles are going to win this game. It's not going to be by a lot. It's going to be a really good game, but I think the Eagles are definitely going to pull out with it. I wouldn't be worried as a Vikings fan, but it's definitely going to be a tough start to go 0-2. You don't want to start out like that, but the division is not too talented. The only team that I could see them really taking the division is the Lions. But it's really just a young division. I think it's all theirs this year. They just got to keep playing good after this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to just send y'all home from the Send 'em Home podcast, week 1 preview. And I want to keep doing this. Just let me know how y'all feel. Hit the like, subscribe, all that. Tell me how you feel in the comments about anything. If you disagree with me, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think it was a good week 1, and I'm excited for this NFL season to keep going, even though I'm a Giants fan and we got absolute shit on. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the season. Keep going, and I hope to see y'all next time. Keep enjoying football, and we're sending all the other podcasts home. Let's go. Have a good one.